So I've got this email from one of my students, and she's just started her practice, and it's quite exciting to see, her passion for growing her business, her eagerness to share it with others. And then a few weeks later, she was upset about some nasty comment on one of her Facebook posts. And she wrote to me about this. So basically, her question was, how do you deal with skeptics, with haters, with critics, and how do you still move on with your work? Now, let me tell you one thing that I've experienced. When you step out there and you live your true passion and you start on to do something which is really, really important for you in your life, and really it's just about any area, you are going to attract all types of people. You're going to attract people who are going to resonate with your vision and passion, but there will be people that aren't necessarily going to be thrilled about what you're doing. And especially in the field of complementary and alternative medicine, you are going to attract detractors who would disagree with your views on health and healing. And today on social media, basically anyone with a keyboard can just go on and let their opinions known and figure out a way to tell you about it. And you see, I'm out there publishing and I get thousands and thousands of people watching me on my videos, reading my emails, sending me replies, coming onto my website, looking at my pages. And certainly I don't appeal to everyone for various reasons, which is fine because you just can't appeal to everyone. And so seriously, I would never try to. And I know this holds a lot of people back. They're scared and they're worried. And when you first start out, it can really, upset you a bit. It can hurt. And I have been through that. And it can make you question what you're doing. But you see, eventually as you grow, you learn to accept the reality that you simply can't appeal to everyone. And you learn to let it roll right off you. Because if you don't, then it will waver you off your mission and goal. And so for me, the most important thing for new practitioners is to protect your confidence. Now, I've worked with so many experts in the field of homeopathy and also complementary medicine. And, I have had the privilege to also observe firsthand how these really, really experienced practitioners who've been working for 30, 40 years handle criticism in spite of all this distraction. And you see, there's one practitioner that I've always been amazed with and learned a lot from because his work has been consistently criticized by different sections of the society. But in spite of that, he has kept on his focus, he's continued to impact the world through his work. And so I've invited him today to share what his strategies are to use, to tune these people off and still not get distracted and still focus on and continue with his wonderful work. Right, so I've invited Dr. Isaac Golden today, and he is going to tell you what are his ways of dealing with skeptics.
I spent a number of weeks in India where I gave 7 presentations and met with a lot of people about research. When I came back, I lined up to do a presentation at my university on the research, and there was an attempt to stop it. To their credit, the Vice-Chancellor of the university and the Vice-Chancellor of Research both said the talk must go ahead. Basically, the people who tried to stop it were skeptics and probably members of a particular group that has galvanised a lot of anti-complementary medicine attention in Australia. Yeah. So this is happening constantly. So my advice to any homeopath, not just new graduates, but any homeopath, firstly, is don't get tied up with skeptics on social media. It is something that will waste a huge amount of your time and produce almost certainly a result that is not going to benefit you or homeopathy. It's very difficult talking with these people because they're not scientists in the true sense of the word. They have a clear agenda to denigrate anything which doesn't fit the pharmaceutical paradigm. So it's not just homeopathy that they're after, it's all forms of complementary medicine. But of course, homeopathy in some ways is the most vulnerable because we don't use medicines with physical quantity. And therefore, if these people are forced to accept that something which doesn't have physical quantity in the way they define it, that can be measured in one of their labs, if something that doesn't have physical quantity works, their whole paradigm has to be changed. Because these people, in general, not always, in general, are not spiritually orientated people. They don't believe there is anything apart from what can be seen and smelt and touched and measured. And I think they live in fear that things which they just completely can't understand because it's outside of their paradigm might actually be effective. And so this is why homeopathy in particular attracts them. So you're not going to be able to change the mind of someone like that on a web discussion, on a Facebook discussion. In fact, I don't involve myself in social media, or I don't have a mobile phone. My daughter Leah actually set up a Facebook page for me via her site, which I never look at unless she asks me to. And there was a post the other day from a lady who said that she was a supporter of homeopathy, but then attached a very long post from a skeptic attacking homeopathy. And she said, well, how would I respond? And I wrote back to her on my Facebook page saying, well, basically, I wouldn't. It's just not worth the time. How I would respond, because this is talking about homoeoprophylaxis now specifically, I would respond by just pointing out that people's lives are being saved every day around the world by doctors employed by governments very often using homoeoprophylaxis. I mean, that was the purpose of my visit to India. And I actually had a 4-hour discussion with Dr. Anil Kunara, who's the Deputy Director of the CCRH, the Central Council for Research in Homeopathy, which employs apparently around 1,000 people doing research in homeopathy around the country. And he asked me to submit a range of research proposals. And I've done that, and we're in email communication, and I'm hoping that, and I expect that he'll be giving me access to all their archives to go through and pull out examples and studies that have been done where they've successfully used homeoprophylaxis in tens of thousands and in some cases millions of people. So what homeopaths need to do is just realise, firstly, what we are doing. We can see the results. Our patients can see the results. It works on plants, it works on animals, it works on tiny infants. So to say it's just placebo, that doesn't fly in the face of fact and what we see, and not just in Australia, but around the world. So the first thing practitioners need to have is confidence that what they're doing is actually effective. It has been for over 200 years. It's not always effective because we don't always get the right remedy. And it's not always the best form of treatment. So we need to be open to referring where appropriate. But in terms of the evidence base of homeopathy, we have a massive evidence base that has involved literally billions of people over the years, because the World Health Organization Atlas, which they published in 2007, suggests that around 500 million, about 500 million people currently use homeopathy. Many of these people are prescribed homeopathy by orthodox physicians who are also homeopaths, many of whom work for governments around the world. What practitioners need to say, if they've got to say anything, I mean, my advice is just don't get involved in these arguments. That if people want to say something, the simple thing to say is that homeopathy is a simple, non-toxic form of therapy which has been used successfully by billions of people around the world for over 200 years. The majority of practitioners around the world are doctors who have gone through a 6-year MBBS study or equivalent, who are using homeopathy. These people are not deluded idiots. Their patients are not blind fools who work only on placebo. We have a considerable amount of evidence. And by the way, if people want to inform themselves, I have an article that has just been published in the latest edition of Similia about the NHMRC report, and another article that was published last year about the evidence base of homeopathy and the evidence base of pharmaceutical medicine. So there's a lot of references there. There's references to the work by Professor John Ioannidis, by the Harvard University Ethics Lab, which have really exposed unambiguously the extent to which the evidence base of pharmaceutical medicine has been corrupted. So all of these things are available to people, but unless a practitioner is really, really well informed and up to speed with all the research, I would recommend you keep it very simple, if any response. And the final thing, Shilpa, I really want to say is that when it comes to homoeoprophylaxis, it is better that most practitioners say nothing, and certainly don't say anything to the mainstream media unless they are really, really conversant with all of the latest research, unless they understand exactly what's involved with using homoeoprophylaxis. Unfortunately, there has been damage done in Australia, but particularly in the United Kingdom and some other countries, by homeopaths with the best of intentions, talking about homoeoprophylaxis, but not being able to follow that up with a knowledge, an immediate understanding and awareness of the evidence that we have and the basis on which it's prescribed. So there are times to speak, but there are also times not to speak. And for most people, particularly new practitioners, when it comes to homoeoprophylaxis, I would say keep your conversations private. Yeah, look, even people who are extremely familiar with all the data will find that they can lose a lot of time. So, you run the risk of wasting a lot of time. But look, every now and again, have a go by all means. But you just be careful, because arguing with skeptics, it's like arguing with a blank wall, really, except a wall that can say nasty words and sometimes can do a bit of reputational damage. But in terms of a two-way, intelligent conversation, you can't have one of those with a skeptic, by definition, unfortunately. Okay, thanks, Shilpa, then.
Thank you very much, Isaac. You take care.
We'll talk again.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so those wise words from Dr. Isaac, and the bottom line is, where would you rather focus all your time and energy? I would personally focus all my time and energy on creating massive value for my ideal clients and for my people who have made an informed decision to work with me. Now, you want to work with people who are looking to take responsibility for their health and wellness, who are open to explore options, and who are intelligent enough to make their own decisions. And in general, the people who are listening to your skeptics are not your clients. It's that simple. And time and again, what I found is to step back and also understand where your critics are coming from. This is interesting because you don't want to ignore constructive criticism, but you see, most of these skeptics are just expressing their own fears, their own doubts, and their own inadequacies, because that's human. And we all have the same emotions in our lives at different times, and that can make us polarized at times. So a little empathy with our critics, just from where they're coming from, can go a long way in bringing back that balance in our life and journey. And to sum it all up, for me, it's very important that you start building your community that resonates with your vision. You want to gradually start working on, a community who shares your passion, who shares your vision for health and healing. And this is where connecting with a like-minded community that nurtures, that inspires you, and that gets you out of bed every day is such a blessing, because that's what actually going to keep you on track. And, go over or release all these obstacles which are in your path in that moment. And this is for me what building the homeopathy network is all about, because I want to bring together those practitioners that want to celebrate the joy of homeopathy and grow with me. And I want to celebrate their wins, their ahas. And when you do that, life obviously gets a lot more joyous, because you're surrounding yourself with amazing people that celebrate wins, that celebrate success, and they're continuously stepping themselves in one way or the other to live their passions. And you can't let the negativity keep you from living the life that you were born to live. So when you're starting off, there are loads of other organizations out there and lots of online and offline communities out there where you can go and join and recharge your batteries. The other day, on Friday last week, I attended the AHA conference, the AHA meet and greet, and it was such a positive, wonderful atmosphere of like-minded people who came together, and I came back with such a lot of joy in my heart. So, and such a lot of hope for the future homeopathy in Australia and around the world. So if you are with me, then start networking with some like-minded people in your community. Get some constructive feedback from the people that really count and qualified to give you that feedback. And please don't stop living the life of your dreams. Thank you very much. Hope this really helps. Put in your views, your comments, your feedback down in the discussion forum, and I'm sure it will benefit every one of us. Thank you very much.